Aaron Doughty. Thank you for being here, bro. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
What was the CIA doing with meditation in the early 80s?
Yeah. So there's these documents that have been released that are actually public information that documents the journey of the CIA exploring altered states of consciousness. And it comes from this, the research comes from this organization called the Monroe Institute. And the Monroe Institute was a guy named Robert Monroe who wrote a book that had to do with out of the body, like getting out of the body, astral projection. And he was a very grounded dude that had successful business. He wasn't some just like airy-fairy guy that was like had all this money and wanted to explore altered states of consciousness. He was like very grounded. And what he did is he brought in physicists to like learn and study out of the body experiences. And he basically using something called hemisync technology, which is a certain type of brainwave frequencies that go into each side of the ear that evokes certain states of consciousness. And through meditating with these tapes, what you're able to do is access information and states of consciousness that maybe most people don't do in their daily life. So it gives you access to a greater stream of energy. And that greater stream of energy can be connected to a grander scope of who you are, to God, to the reality system that we live in. And some of the things that the CIA learned from exploring these out-of-body experiences was that reality that we live in is a form of hologram. That's part of it. We live in a form of holographic reality, which honestly actually does talk about manifestation as well when it comes to eliciting certain states of like emotion and energy into the field. A lot of I've done many of the exercises and studied and done the meditation CDs. And a lot of it is using different symbols to evoke certain aspects of your subconscious, towards understanding your energy field, towards understanding your ability to like repattern your energy. And a lot of it's just meditation for connecting to understanding yourself, how you relate to reality, and it can be very powerful tool for sure. So yeah, the reality we live in is holographic. That was part of it. It's been a minute since I've gone through the documents, but it was yeah.
So the holographic reality, so that means that everything contains the information about the whole. So
yes,
all a fractal. So you can access all of the information of humanity, all information that ever was, that ever will be, the past, future, present, everything exists within the field. And we have access to that. And most of us are stuck in our conscious, 100 odd bits of information mind. Meanwhile, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And there's this whole entire huge multi-billion, trillion, whatever bit iceberg underneath the surface that most of us never really experience outside of maybe our dream state. And the CIA, in a very serious way, was exploring that. And some of the things that was interesting was that they were exploring is consciousness can exit the body and explore non-physical realities. It's the CIA. Consciousness can exit the body and explore non-physical realities. This is freaking CIA. People may access information across time and space, i.e. remote viewing. And then the universe is essentially holographic. Everything contains information about the whole. How cool.
Yeah. That's how I felt. When I first read about it, to me, it was just an expansion on our view of reality, what's possible. Because the CIA, like there are governments that have a organization that deals with remote viewing, because from a human consciousness perspective of people that are in survival, it's like, if I can spy on other countries, I can get intel and information. And there are people that have been trained in this, that have come out that were part of these government organizations that were involved with training it. One of them was on Joe Rogan recently. Very interesting. I think his name was Hal something. Very interesting episode where he basically talks about how they would train people to do this remote view. And the idea behind it, here's other interesting. There's a guy named Thomas Campbell. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I just had him on the podcast a month ago.
Oh, really? Yeah, he's awesome. He was connected to the Monroe Institute early on back in the day, and was connected to Robert Monroe. And it's very interesting some of the things he talks about, because on one hand, it's like, okay, let's use this silver cord to leave your body and to have this out-of-body experience. And we have all these permission slips, even in the Monroe Institute. It's like you have this energy bar tool. You have this what's called the energy resonant balloon. You have all of these things that are symbols for eliciting certain states of consciousness, cleaning your energy field, and all this stuff. And while it can be very powerful ways to interface with your subconscious mind, at the deepest core, it's not real in the sense that we think it is. There's just a collective consciousness that connects us all together. And that collective consciousness may have within it many, many, many people that have traditions that believe in the silver cord of leaving the body. And when you leave your body, you've got a silver cord, and that's how you do it. And if you believe that, that's the information you're going to experience. So in a way, it's like these meditations and tools and even remote viewing. At the fundamental core, the information, everything exists here and now. The information of what a serial number says on a satellite is in the field. Now, you can leave your body as a symbol and go all the way up there, which is what they train in the CIA. It's what people have been able to do, read off long serial numbers in these remote view experiences, which is like mind-blowing, right? Off of like, and then it gets into like, well, how did they know this? What if the person interviewing knew the serial number and it was like, then it was in that field? It gets a little wonky when we're trying to understand consciousness, because it could be also that somebody sitting across from you that has the serial number may have that serial number in front of them, and then you're picking up on their energy and it's in the field. Or it could be you leave your body and go all the way to the satellites and you're able to read it. But that may also just be a symbol for the understanding that we're all one consciousness, we're all connected, all the information's in the field right now, and we're just giving ourselves different permission slips to perceive of it. And some of it may be relevant, some of it might not be relevant. You know, I could see it being beneficial to get certain information, but also it's just like, is it just a cool ego thing? You know, I can astral project and do this. Okay, great. Fist bump. You know what I mean?
What happens to a person's field when they are existing in a state of fear?
Well, when you're in a state of fear, your energy contracts. When you're in a state of fear, if you think about the 11 to 15 million bits of information that are around you, and the fear comes up, it puts you in fight or flight. It puts you in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, you will interpret reality around you to reflect that state of consciousness back to you. So it's like, on one hand, there may actually be things to be fearful around you. On the other hand, there could be very normal things, but you're hyper attuned to the survival mode, so you interpret every little gesture as fear. So it gets...
Your fear is based on the attachment of the outcome in relation to those things. So it still comes back to Buddhist stuff and attachment.
Yep. And the somatic stuff as well, because what if the fear that is there, what if you held space for it within yourself and you just let it be there? And you didn't use control as a mechanism to get it to go away. It becomes a very interesting thought process, because it's like a acceptance of a negative emotion can become a positive experience. So if you can accept the fear that's coming up, that can then allow that energy to integrate, and then you can feel an energy release. And then the acceptance of it becomes this thing you're not trying to avoid, like the shame that might be tried to avoid, or people from seeing certain things. If you can accept it and be present with it, that can transform the energy. So when we say, like, what happens to a person's energy field when they feel fear, someone may hear that and go, oh, wow, I'm going to perceive a fight or flight and of things around me that's going to put me in even more of a state where I'm going to manifest something bad. On the other hand of this, though, if you can be present with that fear and accept it, that can be a very powerful way of transforming it and being good either way, which is an energy that like allows the energy to process, which then it's like, you're really standing, you're like present with that fear. It's a completely different experience. So it's an interesting, kind of an interesting thought process to think about.
Yeah, if a person, I think probably one of the biggest issues with the concept of manifestation is it's mostly rooted in a place of lack and fear.
Imagine the universe is a person, or like, imagine we give the universe a person or an archetype. And what we're doing is we're like trying to, out of fear, we're trying to control with our hands at the throat of the universe. It's like, give me what I want. I want this. I want this. I want this. And it's manipulative, exactly. And that's why a lot of times there's these covert energies under the surface around, I want people to like me. If I can fix people, I can feel good about myself. If other people like me, then I can like myself. And it's this game of control that's played that becomes the shadow side of manifestation. The shadow side is that we're trying to control reality. We're trying to control and believe that our ego has to do everything. We've got our hands to the throat of the universe, demanding it gives us what we want. And what we end up doing is we end up creating even more resistance instead of using a mantra that I've been using this has changed so many people's lives in my community, in my audience, at my live events. This one simple mantra. The mantra is, I'm good either way. I'm good whether something happens or it doesn't happen. I'm good whether this person likes me or doesn't like me. Ultimately, you are good either way. But when there is an intention on the outcome, you take yourself out of the present moment, and then it's wanting something from other people. And when you want something from other people, you're in lack. You're in an energy that says, I'm not good either way. So this is the interesting thing also about like someone that wants to be chosen, or somebody that wants to an energy that happens in this dynamic is, in order to let somebody actually choose you, you have to be okay with whether they choose you or don't choose you. Because otherwise, they're not choosing you. You're controlling them. You're demanding. And it's the same way when it comes to God, the universe. It's like, if you're good either way, what you're saying is, I'm good whether you bring me this opportunity in my life or not. It's an energy of, I have a connection to the divine and God, and I'm good either way. And if you're good either way, the universe, God can then allow you to have that experience, because you're also coming at it from a frame of the truth, which is you are good either way. And if you're good either way, you're in this neutral place. And just like worthiness we were talking about earlier, you don't want to be better than everybody else or less than everybody else. Be neutral. And when you're neutral, it's like you have more power, because you realize you're not better than anyone else. You're not worse than anyone else. Whether you get the manifestation that you want or not, if you're in alignment with who you are, and you're in alignment with like who you prefer to be in reality, and you're focused on the process, that's a very powerful place to be in, because ultimately you have a connection to God or the divine. And that is something that putting your primary focus on is much more powerful than, I'll feel good if this thing happens. That's an external reality.
What does a narcissist have in common with the people pleaser and an empath? And I think narcissist, the concept one, I think narcissism gets thrown around as a concept and people don't really know what it is. Like a pathological narcissist is different than what most people mean when they just say someone's really selfish. They're just, they're just kind of into themselves. But I think that there's a consistent thread of manipulation, and there's a manipulation that seems like a light manipulation, where it's like, oh, and look, I just want to make you feel good. It's like, yes, you want to make you feel good, but there's a caveat. Like, you're trying to manipulate me feeling good in order to get something.
Right.
And I feel like that then we have like the narcissist, like, well, they're just bad. It's like, is it really that different?
Yeah.
Like, what are the similarities? What are the differences? How do we misuse the term narcissist on the internet?
Yeah. So first off, the thread that connects the narcissist and the people pleaser / empath together is that they both have a similar core wound, but they have different coping mechanisms for dealing with that wound. So if you imagine as a kid, let's imagine there's a brother and a sister, or two brothers or two sisters, whatever. And imagine that maybe as a kid, there's tension in the household. Maybe there's a controlling parent or a narcissistic parent in the household. And imagine those two kids are having a similar experience, even though they may have a different internal process. But that's where things can shift. Because what can happen is one kid, as a coping mechanism to the tension in the household, may turn up their ability to feel. So the empath that turns up their ability to feel is a survival mechanism that says, how everybody else feels, if I'm tuned to that, I then know how I need to be so that I can feel safe, how I can gauge myself to other people. So that's one mechanism. Another mechanism could be turning down your ability to feel. Turning down your ability to feel and to be empathic of other people's emotions can be a survival tool, an ego mechanism that is used so that you can avoid feeling shame and avoid feeling certain emotions. So one turns up their ability to feel, one turns down their ability to feel. Now, control is also a thread that comes. Now, this is sometimes hard for certain people to look at because one of the things with empaths is one way that they can sometimes rationalize the pattern is they say, well, I am a very good person. And they a lot of times attract narcissists that are very bad people from their perception. So what happens is the villain, bad perpetrator, I don't want to be anything like that. So I'm going to be really, really, really good. And I'm going to give, and I'm going to give, and I'm going to give. And what happens is that results in codependent patterns where they attract narcissists because they enable that pattern and they actually get something from it. They get to feel validated. This person has a strong sense of perceived frame, and that strong sense of perceived frame feels somewhat safe. Whereas over here, the frame is more tuning to other. So when we think of empath and narcissist, the way that I view it when it comes to being able to really have a breakthrough around this is thinking in the terms of zeros and ones. This is something a shadow work coach told me a long time ago that always stuck with me. When you think of like the movie The Matrix, you know how there's zeros and ones everywhere and it's like the code? Imagine that in reality, we have zeros and ones, and imagine the ones represents self, represents a sense of self. And then zeros represents other. Even zeros kind of like, oh, right? Other. So what happens is the empath looks around and all it can see is other, but it sees the other as self. So it's like your tension is my tension. So if I ease your tension, I can then feel safe. So it's like their boundaries have collapsed to include the entire environment, which is why a lot of times empaths will say, when I go out in public, I feel so drained. Oh my gosh, I just feel everything. Well, part of that is because their environment, it's almost like they've expanded their energy field to include everybody around them. And then anyone else's tension becomes their tension. So empaths are like, I don't like big cities. I don't like being around certain people. And what happens is it can create an energy where it's like kind of like a leaf in the wind of like everybody else. And there's this, in a way, kind of energy where the breakthrough for them many times is to actually feel the separation between them and other people. It's to feel the space in between them and the wall, them and other people in their life. And as they start feeling safe inside of their body or safe in their own frame of reality, they can then see other people's stuff as their stuff as the other people's stuff to deal with, not theirs, not their responsibility. So a huge breakthrough for the empath is to feel the separation between them and the environment, them and other people, and to start asking themselves the question, what are my values? Who am I? How do I feel in this moment? What is authentic? Because many empaths or people pleasers, instead of having authenticity be the filter, their filter is approval and validation. Because approval validation as a kid was a survival mechanism to feel safe in the moment. So if I ease your tension, I can feel less tension and I can feel good. And then also I'm fixing you and you need me. You need me to ease your tension, because if I ease your tension, you will feel good and then I'll feel good. But that's burden that they carry around with them everywhere they go. So that's been a very powerful thing to realize in the empath people pleaser dynamic of becoming aware of that side. And another thing to realize when it comes to narcissism, I believe, is, very often it is like we've all become like, we diagnose everybody. We meet anybody that sets a boundary at autumn. And something that I've learned to do, I remember one time this coach that I had, I definitely in the past have identified a lot more with being more of the person that can feel other people's energies. And I've learned to get in my own frame where I don't really identify with being like an empath any longer. I think that also it becomes a grandiosity thing. Like we were talking about earlier, where like empaths are like, I'm just so sensitive. I just feel so deeply and I'm higher, empaths are higher vibrational, just so you know. Empaths are higher vibrational beings than the icky narcissists and all the other people that are asleep in the matrix. That's also a way of creating grandiosity, which is trying to cover up the shame, when at the core, we're all one consciousness. So when it comes to the narcissism, one thing that I had a shadow work coach tell me once is, in what way does this person's narcissism trigger your own narcissism? And in the moment, I was like, I'm not a narcissist. What are you talking about? Like, I'm not. And this was something that I had to look at, because what he explained to me was that we all have Not like what we call confidence is a healthy form of narcissism. So like when we think about it in the form of a scope, of course there are malignant narcissists and manipulative narcissists that are like have certain characteristics that are just controlling, never happy, and just like, of course that exists. But a lot of times, then what happens is people pleasers and empaths are afraid of getting into tension, because to be in any form of tension, to make other people feel tension by expressing their true selves or setting boundaries, they feel like they're going to become the perpetrator, or they feel like they're going to become just like the narcissist, when in actuality, they're just becoming more authentic. But that may include a healthy form of self, which you could interpret as healthy narcissism, what we call confidence. But what happens is we kind of clump it all together. And because there's a them versus us mentality when it comes to empaths and people pleasers, etc., it creates this separation where there's an avoidance of looking at our own forms of narcissism, which, remember, if the empath and the people pleaser and the narcissist are both feeling that shame from childhood and trying to cover it up, one does it by giving. The empath, people pleaser, gives. The narcissist demands and takes and controls more overtly. This is more covert. The thing to look at, though, is that they're both forms of manipulation. They're both forms of getting their needs met. One just hides behind a good person persona. I'm going to give and give and give, but I'm going to give and then you're going to give me what I want. And the thing to look at, there's freedom on the other side of looking at this uncomfortable thing. Because the freedom is realizing, first off, that that's happening, but then also, in what ways can you begin to be more authentic? Because there, behind every people pleaser or empath is normally an anger, is normally an unprocessed anger. Anger towards childhood, anger towards mom and dad. And that anger, if that was harnessed and felt and processed, could then be channeled in a healthy way where then you can express yourself in an authentic way, where you are able to set boundaries. You're able to express what's real. And when you go through this transformation, other people's tension you don't take on. You recognize it and you realize that what you give up when you give up the seeking of validation and approval is many times you will gain that of respect. Yes, maybe respect from other people, but even more importantly, respect from yourself, because you're showing up for you. So this means instead of holding back how you feel, maybe a vulnerability wound, if you're in a relationship with someone else, instead of holding it back, begin to express it. And when you begin expressing it, you might be surprised that other people may actually be able to hold you in that. And if they're not, you at least are holding yourself in this new frame of reality where you are choosing vulnerability and authenticity over validation and approval. So one of the biggest transformations for empaths or people pleasers, I have found that I've noticed transforms people the most is when they start embracing radical vulnerability and radical responsibility, and they begin expressing themselves and showing up for themselves. Then they begin to respect themselves, and then not taking on the responsibility of other people, even trying to fix the narcissist or whatever, label that is, not trying to fix it, because part of it is if I fix them, then I'll get them to be the way I want them to be. I'm turning mom and dad into like seeing my value and meeting my needs, which is subconsciously what could be happening too. But ultimately, the lesson many times can be just to let go of that energy, acknowledge it and stop engaging with it. Set a boundary and detach. Don't give hooks to get, wired back in it. For many people, it's to detach from that and to be in their own frame of reality and to set the frame of what a healthy reciprocal relationship looks like, which is not something the empath or the people pleaser is used to.
Yeah, it's reminds me of a proton and an electron are one part of an atom. And the balance between the two they're reliant on each other. And I think it's a really interesting thing. If you're a person that identifies, typically people don't really identify as a perpetrator that much, but if you're a person that identifies as a good guy or a good girl or a victim, or this person's doing all this to me, all of that, there's a very good chance that your self-righteousness and your virtue is actually bolstered on the badness of the other. Right. And if you didn't have the badness of the other, who would you be?
Right. Yeah.
And so it's an interesting thing to like, wow, like you are my dance partner. Like, thank you for, I'll pretend you are who you think you are if you pretend who I am, who I think I am.
Yep.
Like, thank you for dancing with me. This has been a really great time. Would you like to dance another way?
Yeah. Would you like it to dance another way? That's one way to go about it. And realize a lot of times what I think's happening is we're finding people in reality to replay similar roles that we're used to with. So even though we change the face and it's a different dance partner, we may only be used to the same song and the same kind of dance over and over again because it's familiar.
Our energy is the same.
The energy is the same. So what happens is, imagine there's a certain dance move that you do that attracts, empaths. Why do I always attract narcissists? Well, you're literally doing the dance move that attracts the narcissist. Like if the narcissist likes like the ever open-hearted, like I would give you my soul energy, and then you're just going around like with this gesture, and then they're like, yes, I want that, and you're like, why am I attracting it? Well, you're doing the dance move. You're doing the dance move that attracts it.
You secretly love narcissists. Like the person that's like, oh my God, this guy and that guy. It's like, I think that
there's a part of them that does, yeah.
There's a part of you that loves that, and you don't know who you'd be without that.
Yeah.
So it's coming in.
It's a tricky thing to look at, and it's hard to acknowledge sometimes that energy, because it's like, it's something that's under the surface, that we might not be aware of.
Do you think people are addicted to their personalities?
Yeah. I think we're addicted to familiarity. So we're addicted to what's familiar to our childhood until we become aware of it. And what happens is the energy we're addicted to from our childhood may have certain coping mechanisms that are at play that are similar games that we're used to playing. So if you imagine that we're used to playing the game of the fixer or something, and what we do is we could say, well, part of my personality is I am a really good person who feels other people's emotions, and I help fix people because I just want to heal the world and heal everybody else. And what happens is we say, that's who I am. Well, is it really who you are? Really, at the deepest core level, you are an eternal spiritual being living a temporary human experience. The moment you say, I'm a fixer, I am a healer, you create this crazy pressure around yourself, and then you want to stay consistent to that definition, because one of the strongest human desires there is to remain consistent to the way that we define ourselves. So, I am the fixer. What is the payoff I get from being the fixer? Well, if I fix other people, they will always need me. If I fix people, I am a good person. If I fix other people, it's like I'm subconsciously fixing mom and dad. May not be aware of that, but that's maybe what I'm doing. So, when we say, are we addicted to our personality? We're addicted to the coping mechanisms that allow us to recreate familiar dynamics over and over again. People that are fixers also many times are used to non-reciprocal relationships. They don't know what reciprocal relationships are. Their job is to fix, which is also to enable. But that's the shadow side of it that they may not be aware of. So very often, I think this is why self-awareness, I think, is the most powerful tool. Being able to look at yourself and really be honest with yourself. What am I avoiding? What am I avoiding by being so sensitive to people's emotions and energies and making everybody else a project and trying to fix them, and the narcissist over here and all of these things I'm trying to control? What are you avoiding? Are you avoiding your own emotions? Are you avoiding your own power? Are you getting to stay in a certain type of energy where you're a victim to everything that's happening? These are things that are hard to look at, but it's where all the gold is. Because when you start to see that, you're like, okay, how can I work with this emotion and energy? How can I feel what I'm avoiding? And what then happens is then we have something to work with where we can begin transforming our sense of who we believe we are. So at one point, before I was full-time on YouTube, I went through the phase where I was like, I'm going to manifest. I'm going to think about what I want and manifest having a big YouTube following and quitting my 9-to-5 job. And what eventually I realized is that was for my ego, but also it was an energy where I was trying to control reality. But it was about me becoming aware of that dynamic and learning a new mechanism for realizing like who I am and how I like interpret reality. The other aspect of where I was going with this though was I saw myself back in the day of trying to manifest. I used to believe I didn't have a strong work ethic. I honestly probably didn't have a strong work ethic. Then I committed to daily videos on YouTube. And after 3 months, I had made 90 videos. I made daily videos on YouTube for like the first couple of years I was on YouTube. And then I'd get a lot of positive reinforcement for other people that would say, Aaron, how do you make daily videos on YouTube? It's crazy. How do you do that? And I'd sit there and I go, I don't know. And they're like, wow, you have a crazy work ethic. And I'd be like, I guess I do. So one day I didn't have a crazy work ethic. The other day one day I committed to daily videos on YouTube, and all of a sudden I have a crazy work ethic. Well, for a long time, I saw myself as not having a crazy work ethic. I worked a 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes. It was a commission job, but I wasn't like, once I committed to my mission and I completely transformed. But I was for a long time addicted to the familiar of trying to manifest and thinking about what I want, controlling reality. So I guess it's like, it's realizing that there's these ego attachments that aren't who we really are, but we're addicted to the payoffs we get from it. Payoffs of being a fixer, don't have to deal with your own emotion. You get to focus on everyone else, play out those same dynamics. What are the payoffs of not having a strong work ethic? I get to stay at my 9-to-5 job that sucks. I get to be the victim against the evil corporate politics managers that I don't like, which is replaying familiar childhood dynamics. Like, there's payoffs we get. And the freedom, I believe, is when we become aware of these payoffs and we're really honest with ourselves. And then we face what we're avoiding. And back in the day, I was avoiding what people thought by putting out content. I was avoiding my own energy of like the fear that come up when it came to creating content. Or same thing with the fixer. Are you avoiding a conversation that's uncomfortable? You avoiding looking at yourself? Like, what are you avoiding? That's where a lot of the gold is.
If we have access to all of the frequencies right now, and we are just turned into one particular channel, but we actually, in fact, have access to every channel that has ever existed, every version of ourselves. We're the narcissist, we're the lover, we're the fighter, we're the person with the great work ethic, we're super lazy, we're all of that simultaneously. We just happen to be tuned into one channel or one frequency. How does a person begin to choose their frequency today? Is it something that's an arduous process that's going to take days and weeks, or is there some way to change the channel today and choose who you are in a deeper way?
There's a couple insights and reframes that I've had around this that make it a lot easier. And one of them is when you think of a television set and you think of, let's say you've been watching the History Channel for a long time. You've had your remote on the History Channel and it's familiar. Kind of predictable. You've been watching it for a long time. And let's say you want to go to National Geographic, right? Do you need to create the National Geographic channel to tune it to the channel? No. But a lot of times, even in manifestation, right? It's I must create your dream reality. You don't create your dream reality. You don't create it in the same way that if you tune from one channel to the other, from History Channel to the Discovery Channel or National Geographic, it already exists. It's about energetically tuning to it with your energy, which is your remote. Your remote is how you think, how you feel, and how you act. But more than that, I'd say it's who you are being. Who you are being. And back in 2017, before I was on YouTube, I was being a 9-to-5 job goer. I'd go to work every day. I'd think thoughts equal to that. I'd complain about how slow it was. I'd listen to corporate politics and complain about it, even though I didn't like it. My reality was equal to that. And it was natural and normal for me. Then what happened is eventually I'd started to be a YouTuber. I committed to daily videos on YouTube. I realized that YouTuber version of me learned thumbnails. That version of me learned how to recognize titles that worked well. That version of me was trying different topics to see what resonated with the audience and what I was also passionate about talking about. I committed to the process, but also I committed to being a YouTuber, even though my external reality wasn't reflecting it back yet. So what happened is I energetically tuned to that channel that already existed. And what happened is, over a very short period of time, my whole entire life transformed. Even about a year and a half ago, I had the identity of being a YouTuber. I've created over 1 million followers on YouTube and all of this, there's this ego centered around the identity of I am a YouTuber. I've made YouTube videos, I create social media content, etc. And one thing I had to learn is that brought me a lot of safety and support over the last 7 years. It's brought me a lot of abundance. I get to travel the world doing what I love. But the shadow side of that is there's this new way of being that includes me running lots of live events. And these live events, I do a lot of hot seat coaching. I get into the unknown. I have nothing planned. I coach people on stage. It's a completely new version of me. I went through the same thing from being in a 9-to-5 job to going full-time on YouTube. Big shift, fear came up, all of these things. As a YouTuber now that has abundance and travels the world and lives in a completely different lifestyle than I ever dreamed of back in 2017, I had to go through something similar. How would me being not just a content creator or a YouTuber, how would me be like a transformational speaker be different? Well, I imagine I'd be doing lots of live events. I imagine I would start getting comfortable being in the unknown. I imagine I would start stretch myself and be more present on stage. And what skills would I learn? These are all things that I began to really contemplate. And then major part of it was taking action. Even now, I'm getting ready to go to Europe in a month. And I have a lot of stuff going on. I have another thing I'm doing with another business of mine. And I decided that in 2 or 3 days from now, and here in LA, I'm running another pop-up live event. 1 week to promote it. It's 100 people. It's already pretty much booked up, but I committed to it. And even though it feels a little bit rushed, I'm the version of me that's doing consistent live events, getting to the unknown, 7 hours of speaking with no planned content. The more I do it, the more comfortable I get. And the more I do, it's not even my ego that's doing it. The more I don't plan and I just trust the divine to flow through, the more magic happens. So I don't have to put pressure on my ego, even though my ego will still come up and be what's going to happen at the live event? What if you don't know where to bring somebody, or those thoughts come up. But I also recognize that God has always got my back. The universe has always got my back. I surrender to the unknown, the magic happens. It's not me watering the plant. It's just happening. And that transition for me has been me tuning from the station of the History Channel, which for me has now been 8 years of YouTube, just creating YouTube content, which I'll still do in my own way, but it's evolving now to I am shifting to this new frequency of the version of me that does a lot of transformational speaking, a lot of coaching on stage, gets in the unknown, travels. I'm going to Europe to run a 3-day live event here soon. These are all things that I'm doing as a commitment to that new version of me. So it's not just me thinking about it, speaking at live events, it can be a powerful tool, but also it already exists. The version of me that's already traveling the world, going on tour, running live events already exists. And knowing that makes it easier because I don't have to create it. I don't have to try to do it. I just have to choose to be it, link up my thoughts, my emotions, my actions to it, and let it be natural for me. And the naturalness comes from repetition. Just like back in the day when it was weird to make my first video. It felt cringy. It didn't feel natural. It's weird looking into a camera. Well, the more I did it, the more natural it became. Well, now, before, I'd be running a 1 or 2 day live event, no planned content whatsoever, hot seat coaching. And it would be a week or two before, I'd start feeling a little bit of nerves. And what's happened is I've done it many times now. And here in 3 days when I run a live event, there's an excitement, but the nerves aren't there like they used to be. So I'm milking the nerves. The nerves are good. I'm going to wish one day I'll run so many live events. I will feel I wish I felt nervous before a live event. Or to get that, I have to increase the number I have to have 1,000 people there or something. Embrace that journey. I think a lot of people don't embrace that journey. If you're just now starting to put yourself out there, it's embrace those emotions because one day it'll be normal for you. And that's where the magic, that's where the transformation, that tension becomes the initiation into a new you.
Right now, there's at least many people listening to this that are sitting with absolutely no evidence of the thing that they desire to become. Is your recommendation for that person sitting at a job that they despise, in a body they don't really love that much, perhaps in a relationship that's kind of so-so, and they have these aspirations and they see, somebody like you can be a little daunting, where it's it seems like it seems like you just probably were born this way, presumably. What would be your recommendation to the person that has absolutely no evidence of who they're desiring to become in this moment? What do they do today?
Yeah. Well, first off, the thing I would say is what you feel right now, it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel like you don't have it figured out. It's okay to feel like you want something more. It's okay to recognize that you're not where you want to be. I think the first thing to recognize is it's okay. Because what we do is to mask the feeling of not being okay with where we are. What we sometimes do is like, I want to get over there. And if I get over there, then I can feel good. If I get over there, then everything will change. But if you let it be okay where you are and you make peace with it, which isn't saying I want to stay here forever, but that can be a powerful thing that I think a lot of times people miss, because it's like the resistance. There is resistance in their field. If they're like, I work a 9-to-5 job I hate and I don't want to be here. I work a 9-to-5 job I hate and I don't want to be here. And they just, that energy is active in their field. Well, guess what? That's a lot of resistant energy. And you say, well, I want to be over there. I want to be over there. But you want to be over there because you work a 9-to-5 job you hate and you don't want to be here. And what I learned is before I quit my 9-to-5 job, I actually made peace with it. I worked 6 months, even when I had 100,000. I didn't quit until August of 2017 when I had over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Knowing what I know now, I could have literally been full-time, like within a week of starting, I could have been full-time with what I know now. I didn't know that at the time, so it just milked out. But that was a meditation practice for me to not be so hard on myself, to not be wiring in, I'm stuck, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be here. I became at peace with it. And by becoming at peace with it and making it more about my connection to God or the divine and the spiritual component of letting that drive me, it reduced that resistance. And then from that energy, I was able to then focus on and go through a self-inquiry practice of like, what do I really want? What lights me up? How can I follow my passion? And then just taking one step in that direction. And that one step might not look like a lot because there's a huge mountain to climb. But that one step is you beginning to figure it out, beginning to like read books and to find out what you could be passionate about. You getting around somebody. Someone's like, a lot of times I think we feel stuck because we keep telling ourselves we're stuck, and we become more resourceful when we realize, how can I get creative with this? So for example, you're like, well, I want to own my own art gallery studio or something. I want to create art for a living. Okay, well, get creative. Talk to artists. Surround yourself with artists. You say, I don't know any artists though, Aaron. Well, you can put yourself out there and get out of your comfort zone and go meet people. You can go work and go to somebody that has an art gallery studio and ask them questions. You can get in the energy field around people that are already doing it. You can get online and read books. You can go on YouTube and learn anything. You can find your way of taking action. Don't just learn, but take action and start to play with the energy of being it. And so that means I want to own my own art gallery. It's such a big mountain to climb to own my art gallery studio one day. Well, guess what? To do that means you probably create art every day. So how can you create art every day? Just a little bit every day. How can you maybe film it or put it out there? Or how can you like that? This is where the self-inquiry practice comes, because it's not about what you get, but it's about who you become in the process. So my best advice is to actually make peace with where you are. Make peace with where you are and realize when people say I'm out of alignment, like I'm so out of alignment with the reality. Well, you are always 100% in alignment with the reality that is equal to your identity, with equal to who you are being and equal to what you tolerate. So you are in alignment. It's not that you're out of alignment. It's that you're in alignment. You're just in alignment with the reality that you may not want. But what I'm saying is actually come at peace with that. You've created it. And honestly, when I was working a 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes, I got paid like $50 to $60K a year. It wasn't the worst job. Like I could be grateful for a week. I got paid weekly there. I could be grateful for a weekly paycheck. I could be grateful that I get to wear a suit to work. I'm not laying tile or doing something that would be much more physically demanding and maybe something I was much less passionate about. Being gratitude and reducing the resistance can be a very powerful way of cleaning the energy around you. And then from that energy, you can then focus on, how can I be this version of myself? What is one thing I can do every day to embody this energy? That's the shift, I think, because what you do in a 24 hours in a day, every day, compounds over time. It becomes a more and more powerful energy. My life transformed when I started making daily videos on YouTube. And even now, as I'm in this new phase of my business of running live events, just the more live events I run, the more I wire in this new me. So I'm just doing I'm just doing them as much as possible, because that really is the key. The key is repetition. The repetition changes your sense of identity, but it also comes from a level of awareness of like, what is this version of you? What brings meaning and passion to your life? Not just what gets the result, not just the money, etc., but like what really motivates you. For some people, money might be the thing that motivates them, but I think underneath that, it's like, what do you believe the money will bring you? So for me, it's been a consistency, taking action. It's been being in peace with where I'm at and allowing God or the divine to be tandem in the process with me, to help guide me. And connecting to that has been like the most powerful thing that shifted my life, especially over the last couple of years and even more recently.
Is it okay if I ask you a couple more questions? Are you in the... Okay, cool. All right, amazing. Appreciate it. I think that something that is not spoken about, I appreciate that response, by the way. And what you're saying in the beginning as well, I think it's like, the idea that we're in this covert negotiation with the universe, that I will be happy once you give me this thing. And we're kind of, like you mentioned, like have a chokehold on the universe or God. And, we're in this contractive kind of fear-based state. It pushes the world away from us. And if the universe or God was a parent and the child was in this place where it's like, I'm going to throw a fit until you give me this candy.
Yeah.
A really bad parenting decision would be to give that little twerp candy.
Yeah.
Like, don't do it.
Yeah. 100%.
And so we're in that. And so it's I think being able to come into that place of like, okay, like, can I have faith? And can I trust that this is happening for me? And perhaps this is even happening through me. And can I maybe reduce my resistance to this in the moment? Can I maybe start to change my frame from all the things that I don't like about this world that God or the universe has provided for me? What if I just experiment? I don't know if this is going to work. I'm just going to experiment for 48 hours and I'm just going to pretend to be grateful. I'm going to look for things. I'm just going to, this table, wow, this is a nice table. This came from somewhere. Like, I have this is nice. And just try it on, and see if Mama Universe it's like, okay, like, you're chill, maybe it's okay. We'll give you some of what you're asking for in a polite way. But I think most of us are holding the universe hostage, and the universe is like, don't play that.
And even think about it, because like, even as you mentioned that, some people might be like, okay, so basically, if you imagine the little kid that's like, I want candy, give me candy. And you're like, the mom's like, I shouldn't, like, maybe it's not good to give this kid candy, And it's like, as a little kid might hear that, they may go, okay, so basically I'm going to pretend like I don't want the candy. Mom, I'm good either way, whether you give me the candy or not. The thing to become aware of, though, is that now a manipulative tactic to get the universe to give you what you need. That's a deeper level. That's a deeper level of self-inquiry there, because sometimes people hear me in my YouTube videos talking about detachment, letting go, non-attachment, etc. And it's like the point is missed, because it's like, yeah, I'm going to let go because then I'm going to get them back. It happens so often when two people, like someone goes through a breakup and then they're just thinking about the person, thinking about the person, and that person, it repels the other person because they're literally projecting energy at the person, right? Then what happens is the person finally lets go. Instead of focusing this way, they focus on themselves. They focus on like their friendships. They focus on a different area of their life. They reduce the resistance and they stop sending this person energy. But then what happens is, as they're focused on themselves, this person then becomes interested because it can feel that this person's not focused anymore, because we're all connected. So what happens, though, is then this person learns about detachment. And they're like, okay, I'm going to let go, because if I let go, this person will then come back. But the key is instead recognizing that even though it is a mechanism that works, and I hear from so many people like, yeah, I let go of my ex and then it came back, or I let go of this person I was thinking about and then it came back. It's tempting because the ego's like, I'm going to use this as a tool. And deeper than that is real recognizing that the non-attachment is also the awareness of, like, one, what's healthy for you, but two, like, is that a power? You think your mind might, what is the part of you that really wants this energy? Do you know what I mean? What is the part of you that wants that? And deeper than that, it's about learning your connection to God, your connection to source, your connection to your life in general. relationships often reflect that. And something that is powerful is learning non-attachment from a place of like having God feel this space and not other people. Because one way to get over somebody is to find somebody else. You can find somebody else and put the energy in them, and then that energy goes away, and then that person might come. You know what I mean? But the key here is becoming aware of like putting that energy into yourself, but not just the ego self, also the greater self that can be connection to God or the divine. And when you're good either way from a level of like, I've got the divine flowing through me and it flows through everybody else, but that's where power really is. So it's like then, from a higher level of consciousness, you could really be good either way, whether you get the chocolate or not. You can still also be vulnerable. Mom, I do want the chocolate. Like you could be, but not needing and demanding. Like think about the difference there, right? Mom, give me my chocolate. I want my chocolate. I want this. I want that. That there's resistance there because you're trying to control mom to give you the chocolate. But if you're really good either way, you could then be vulnerable and be like, oh, mom, I do want the chocolate. You see the difference in energy there? It's not that you don't want the chocolate. It's just one, you're demanding, and one, you're vulnerably asking, and you're also like, okay, I'm good if I don't get the chocolate as well.
I think that is a very great point. And I think what I'm saying is for a person, like I've experienced very kind of addictive type behaviors towards thoughts or towards people or towards things where I would love to have a relationship with God or something higher, or I would love to be in a place of non-attachment, but I am so overwhelmed with my own addiction and like affliction in that moment. I think the experiment is like, okay, I'm totally overwhelmed with this. What if I just experiment with imagining and see if maybe I can catch a little momentum in that direction? But I wonder, so like, how does a person start to develop a relationship to God or something deeper than the things that they're addicted to or the thoughts that they're addicted to?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting self-inquiry question because it really, I think, shifts from person to person to person. If you talk to someone like Eckhart Tolle and ask him about God, it would probably be presence. If you do stillness is God. If you talk to certain people that have different religions, it'd be like a name or a archetype or an energy. And I think just as many number of people on the planet, there's different versions of our interpretation of what God is. And even back in the day on YouTube, I wouldn't really use the word God because it was just so, it would like trigger people and stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, this is what I mean, blah, blah, blah. But no, that triggers you, then that's like, I choose to use the word God, but it's not coming from any specific dialect or but it's whatever that means for you. So, for me, it's meant really going inwards and connecting to the space in between my thoughts and observing my thoughts without trying to control them, which was probably the biggest shift in consciousness I had back in 2012. I was thinking a lot of my thoughts. I was learned about the movie The Secret, manifestation, all that. Don't want to think negative thoughts because I'm going to manifest something bad. And then 2 or 3 days in, I started observing my thoughts. I started just letting them be there. And there was this spaciousness that was created. And that spaciousness created such a different feeling inside of my body that I started to connect to like this presence that completely changed how I felt about myself, about life. And that awareness was like so powerful for me that it changed my life. My version of that is a mixture of having a meditation practice, which not everyone needs. I heard from many people, like I walk my dog and I connect with my loved ones, or I connect with there's so many ways to do it. You ask Eckhart Tolle if he meditates, and I think he said he doesn't meditate. It's like, oh, Eckhart Tolle doesn't meditate? Because life is meditation, I know people that are very artistic and they have no concept. My tattoo artist has no, he's, I believe, a very spiritual person, but he's not spiritual at all. If I were to ask, I don't even know if he believes in God, but he is very connected to a flow state. He he rides in he rides helicopters when he's not doing tattoo. He just works with the clients he wants to work with. He does he rides helicopters and planes in his pastime. He gets into a flow state. He tattoos, he gets into a flow state. And he's open to the spiritual concepts and he likes learning about them because that's kind of a lot of his tattoos. But he's all about a flow state. And I think that he's a very my interpretation of spiritual. I don't think spiritual means that you even necessarily believe in God. I think it's the way in which you show up in life. And that flow state, loving other people, is connecting to God. Loving yourself is connecting to God. Loving the part of yourself that doesn't love yourself is connecting to God. Loving the part of yourself that judges other people is connection to God. Like, love is ultimately what I believe God is. And loving the parts of ourselves that we don't even sometimes have even having the courage to look at sometimes because we're so shameful of it. That's also love. So it becomes this interesting process of just loving the aspects of ourselves we normally reject, loving other people in their energies and becoming aware of our interpretation of them, their narcissism and all of this stuff, what it reflects back to us. And ultimately, I believe we're all one consciousness. And everything is a reflection. We're just in this world, and it's just all these reflective mirrors. And the things that trigger us the most is it's energy that's in our field, and it's coming up for a reason. And how we deal with that, and how we surrender that, and how we connect to a larger energy inside of ourselves is just a very intimate process that changes from person to person. But ultimately, that's kind of my barometer, is connecting to love, connecting to something greater than myself. And all the terms and everything that we can use are cool terms that we can use, and some are more spiritual than others. But ultimately, I think some of the most spiritual people on the planet might not even, know certain scriptures or read, it's just the way they are being. It's their consciousness. It's the way they are showing up and the way they interact with other people that is their expression of God. That I think is something that's aspiring to be like.
Yeah, I think you just define Christ consciousness. It's
right. Just
compassion, forgiveness. Welcoming the hardest situations and the most challenging people. Treating the lowest person. You treat the lowest person as you treat me. Like that. Like that's like the way that you communicate to a waiter, the way that you communicate to the trash person, the way that you communicate to yourself when you don't have acceptance for yourself. Those are all moments to tap into that particular religious dogma, which I think has a lot of sound perspective. But that compassion for all the things, I really do believe, even as you're saying that, it just feels like I feel like myself relax, and that idea of oh wow, like the hardest feeling that can come up can become an opportunity to say, tell me more. Oh, cool. Like you feel greedy. Oh, you're scared. Oh, you're lustful. Oh my, you're angry. You hate. Amazing. You hate. Tell me more about it.
And
instead of putting this judgment thing on it, and then you put that into another closet, and then you shut the door on that, and you put that into another closet, and you wrap it up. And it's like, what if you just bring it all out, and I'm just going to love all of it? What is that like? What does that do?
Yeah, like even when you were mentioning earlier, like this, you said I have some addictive thoughts and some addictive things towards different patterns, etc. Mm-hmm. It's like loving that part of you too.
Yes, I have.
Doesn't mean you want to stay in it forever, but loving that part of you is like can be like accepting that part of you too, because sometimes we're so shameful of it, or it becomes our story, and then we keep it active.
Yeah, it creates space.
Yeah.
What is reality transurfing? Did I say that right? Transurfing?
Yeah, you did.
All
yeah,
right.
Reality Transurfing is a book that was written by a quantum physicist in Russia. That was originally written in that is the Russian language, and it's been translated now to many different languages. And it is a book that is kind of like the movie The Secret or whatever in the United States. It's a very different version of that, but similar effect on that in Russia. So it's a model for looking at reality that's honestly very similar to a lot of the stuff we've been talking about. And there's some concepts in there that I think are extremely powerful for understanding. But what that book has to do with is it's a model for looking at reality through the lens of quantum physics that has to do with understanding that everything we can imagine in reality already exists in what is called the alternative space. The alternative space is kind of like all realities exist in this space. And because they all exist, you don't have to create reality. It already exists. It's about surfing, transurfing. It's about surfing through the alternative space with your energy, understanding your relationship to it, and understanding more specifically where we put importance. So one of the most powerful ideas in the book is this concept of decreasing importance. Anything we make really, really important, we create something called excess potential. Excess potential is resistance that blocks the realization of that thing. So if you make a person really, really important, you are energetically separating yourselves from them. If you treat someone like a celebrity, they're going to treat you like a fan. That's the idea of the energy dynamic. But you can also make that towards not just a person, through different aspects of life. Ooh, money. If I made this amount of money, put it on pedestal. It's really, really important that I make this much money. We create energetic resistance. And what happens is there's a belief from the book that there are balancing forces that come into play that will literally not give you what you want because it's not equal to your identity, which is the idea that I think is so powerful of understanding what we make really, really important is what we are energetically separating ourselves from. What we let be natural is where we're good either way. So you can see where a lot of these teachings have kind of like trickled into my non-attachment teachings, etc. But it's like you're good either way. So one of the main concepts is around decreasing importance. Another one is around something called pendulums, which is a very interesting idea that I also connect to Carl Jung talking about archetypes in reality. And it's this idea of understanding that there are these collective consciousness that we live in. There are billions of people on the planet. We all have thoughts about reality that are maybe invisible that we don't see, but there are certain ideas that have more momentum than others because we share many beliefs in reality. So there are pendulums, which you can think of them as thought forms around different ideas. And these ideas are fueled by millions of people on the planet. Now, for example, there are pendulums around sports teams. There are pendulums around political candidates and people. There are pendulums around corporations. There are pendulums around cryptocurrency. When you think of that, of Bitcoin, it is a giant pendulum when we think of this idea from reality transurfing. A lot of energy is going into it, which grows awareness of it, which continues to grow it up bigger and bigger. And then what happens is it goes up and down based on the energy, based on its utility, based on other factors. But in general, these are all different pendulums. Now, there are pendulums around your YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. There are pendulums around different ideas that you've had. When you listen to certain songs, you're literally, the belief is you're tapping into the millions of other people that listen to similar music. It's like your thoughts begin to in a way feed different ideas. And it's interesting thinking about that of collective thought forms and collective energy. When you think of who wins presidential candidates, the more you fight a pendulum, the more you feed it, by the way. So when we talk about political candidates and we talk about stuff that's happening in the world, this is also when you talk about stuff that's happening in very intense parts of the world as well, where it's like the more awareness we put on it, the belief is the more awareness we put on it, the more we're able to, maybe the more we're able to heal it. In fact, the more awareness and anger and energy that we put towards it, the more we are fueling that pendulum. And the more we fuel that pendulum, the more it rocks back and forth. And if you fight it, the more you feed it. So it's a very interesting thought experiment with understanding these different ideas in our collective reality, because many people think they're having their own thoughts when in fact they're having the thoughts of these pendulums. I am part of this political candidacy. I believe in this person. I believe in this. I am for this. I am against this. And what happens is you may be also, part of that might be authentic. Part of it might also be fueled emotionally. The more people that get emotional about something, the more they also feel that dynamic, which sends energy to that part of the planet or to those people, that organization, etc. So in reality transurfing, it goes pretty deep in this understanding of pendulums. The way you defeat a pendulum is you don't. You observe it. You observe it. You observe what's happening. You observe it. The more you energetically say I'm for or against, the more you're tied up in it. The more you then might be kind of like get sucked into it. So This is why, like, some people watch the news all the time. They're always triggered. It's like they're not just having their own thoughts. Like, they're having the thoughts of these pendulums, and it's a kind of a battle in reality right now of these pendulums and people's thought energy, thought forms. It's a very unique perspective when it comes to collective energy, collective thought forms. I think the most powerful way to shift different parts on the planet is to get in mind and heart coherence in a group and to actually view the piece, not the problem, which is interesting because people will see people like you and me who have followings and like, you should be talking about this. You should be talking about that. You want me to put more attention and energy than already is on the pain and suffering, which from our perspective of what we do, we have such a small audience compared to like the key would be more so if we were to just get 1,000 people that would meditate on mind and heart coherence and viewing peace in the world, that would have a more powerful energetic effect than it would be of beating the drum of feeding the pendulum. This is what I believe. This is what I believe. And this is why the way that I do my work in the world is I believe that the more I'm able to be in, sharing the message that I have and assisting people in the way that I'm passionate about actually has more of a ripple effect than it does if I were to just like kind of ignorantly talk about certain things that I'd have to do a whole bunch of research on in order to be accurate about. You see? So anyways, it's these pendulums. So a lot of times if I see things on my, if I see things, it's kind of like, that's how I kind of interpret it. I'm like, well, I think the best thing that we can do is create mind and heart coherence and send a unified thought energy towards these different things in our life, which is something I've done, by the way, in meditation videos. I've gone live on YouTube and done this. I don't do it all the time, but I've done it before. And it's very powerful. People that are a part of it, they feel the energy of the group energy, but it's done from a place of mind and heart coherence and allowing the divine to flow through. So anyways, I'm not sure if that answers the question. I know. But yeah, pendulums decrease importance. There's some other ideas also that are very powerful in the book, but I don't know if there's any you want to go into.
Well, something that I think that is, and then we can wrap up pretty soon, but something that I think that is, in theory, it sounds nice if you have some thought. Say, I think money is a big charge for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I will be happy when I have this number of net worth, or I'll be happy when I get a raise on this, whatever. How can we use energetics to make more money, to increase our wealth? What are the energetics of wealth, and how do we cultivate that within ourselves?
So what a lot of people focus on when it comes to energy of wealth is they focus on the getting of the wealth, the getting of the money, and they want to receive money. And the other component to this to understand energetically is that money is just a symbol. Even wealth is just a symbol. It's a symbol of energy. And the symbol is, instead of focusing on wanting to receive, focus on what you can give. Focus on the value that you can create in the world. The value you can create by following your passion of something that really means something to you, that you can commit to. That's the missing key for a lot of people when it comes to money and wealth, is they want to get money. They want to manifest money, but money comes as a reflection of the value you provide in the marketplace. It's the value you provide to other people. And when you instead focus on that, that's where things shift. Even when I used to sell women's shoes back in the day, I got paid commission. Every day I went in, I started at zero, and I could see very clearly what thought process and emotion and energy went into getting different results. If I went into work and I was like, I want to sell $5,000 worth of shoes today, because if I sell $5,000 of shoes today, that's $300 of commission with where I worked. So that's the goal. I want to receive. And then every customer that comes in, I'm thinking, are you a step closer to my goal? That's the energy. And I'm focusing on getting, which is manipulative, right? It's like, it's a different energy. Then what I would do is I would see that it was a lot of resistance. One day I shifted the energy completely. I went into work and I focused on, how can I give value? How can I connect with people? How can I be myself? How can I enjoy the process? And what do you think happened? I hit even more than the goals that I would have on days like that. And I would be like, oh, I just have to change the focus. Instead of what will I receive, what will I How can I give? How can I be authentic? How can I learn? And even now, as I run live events, same thing. This is a tricky mind thing with live events. The way I create content now is I run live events with like 100 people. I coach people. I got different camera angles, and it's something that's being recorded. And if I go in to that live event with the intention of getting great content, what do you think happens? I'm gonna get great content. I need to stand over here. It's like all this resistant energy. They all then become pawns in my play so that I can get with the result that I want, which is viral content. The most viral content has come when there is zero agenda. It's come when I just focus on adding value to them. I don't care if I focus on, is this going to get great content? Doesn't matter. Is this going to help transform them? Am I going to learn how to use skills in a new way? Am I going to connect with them? Am I going to be present? Am I going to slow things down for them? Like, these are different questions that ironically gets the best content. So in essence, what's very interesting about this in general is that you and everybody can get a lot of value in becoming aware of what the agenda is. Many people that are like, the agenda is I'm going to make lots of money. That's an outcome. The agenda is I'm going to run a live event and get great content. That's an outcome. I'm aware of the outcome, but the outcome isn't the primary focus. The primary focus is on the connection. The primary focus is on the value. The primary focus is on, and what can I give, and how can I learn, and how can I grow? How can I do the best that I can? When I focus on that, the money will come. So I'd recommend anyone that's watching right now, focus on becoming the best version of you can be. Get out of your comfort zone. Focus on ways of adding value in new ways. Focus on becoming the best version of you, whatever that is. If you're just working a 9-to-5 job you hate, how can you, when I was working that 9-to-5 job, and I would apply this principle from a book called Think and Grow Rich, which was like it was like increased value. Everything that you do, like impression of value of going the extra mile, it's called. I would go the extra mile in that job, selling women's shoes at Nordstrom's at the time. I would get so many job offers from people that because I was going the extra mile. I was going above and beyond where my current place was. I was adding more value. And I get job opportunities all the time. And that was because of the energy I was putting out. So if you want to make more money, you have to more than fill your present space with thinking, feeling, and acting equal to the survival mode, or trying to get, which is like a chokehold of the universe type energy, and instead focus on what you can give. Focus on following your purpose, your passion, and what means something to you. Focus on doing your best on the person you can become, and recognize that money is just a symbol. And when you focus on this energy first, money comes as a reflection. But not because you're trying to manipulate the universe to give it to you, because money naturally flows towards value, towards what is providing value. And also when you have a pure intention, I think it's very powerful. Like the more I make it about my live events, allowing like the divine to flow through, it's like I have the resources that I can't even explain, that's just very divinely orchestrated. And I think that because I'm doing it from a pure place, the universe sends me more and more abundance to grow my mission more and more, because I'm remaining in alignment to that and not letting my ego just try to control and get money and all of that. It's like it remains pure, even though money's an aspect of it. Money's kind of a neutral thing to me. It's not great. It's not bad. It's an energy. It's like a tool. It's like, even as I say that now, it's like money. I can definitely see where money is good, but I'm not attached to money in that way, if that makes sense.
As you're saying, it's interesting. Like something that came to my mind. It's like it's exhausting to be exhausted. Like it's exhausting to be like, I don't care. It's like, cool. Like you're kind of draining energy from yourself right now. You'd be in the exact same situation. And the person, oh, can I get that for you? Can I be helpful? How can I support you? Oh my God. Like you can be inquisitive. You can be listening. Be like, oh, you need, I'll run back and get that right now. You actually create and cultivate energy within yourself by being a useful person.
Yes.
And when you're a withdrawn person, you actually kind of drain yourself and you kind of disassociate and you come out of yourself in a way. And I think we have these masks, and eventually, we can be wearing the mask so long that you believe the mask to be you. And you're like, yeah, I'm just kind of withdrawn and I'm not really into this place or these people or this world, and it starts to become so habituated to you. And it's almost like the feeling, I think I've been done this in my own life. It's almost like I'm conserving energy for when it matters. Like maybe it always matters. Like what if you just start engaging in every day is like today's the day, and then also simultaneously engaging in the non-attachment of like, and it's okay if it's not.
Yeah.
I think if you could do that, you become a very
Yeah.
effective person, and you become a very sticky person. And like at some point, I think that probably is kind of like what manifestation is in a more objective form, is if you're in that kind of energy or frequency or, you know, personality of a useful, thoughtful, energetic, caring, empathetic person, just with regularity, you're putting in reps of that, life magnetizes towards you. And at some point there's that person, or at some point there's that girl or that boy or that opportunity, and boom, you have 6 months of momentum. I'm ready to go. Compared to the person that does not manifest, and they're stuck in the chokehold on the universe, and like, I will show up once the universe gives me this.
100%. It becomes a trap, like waiting for things to happen. It's all about who you become. It's who you become, and who you become in the process is something you carry with you. When people like, you know, lose wealth, they lose their wealth. They're the person they've become. Many times they can just recreate it because of the person they became, you know? So it's a more powerful place to be at when you focus on that, becoming the best person you can be, becoming the most emotionally available you can be. Like, these are all things that as you work at within yourself, attract to you people to reflect that, whether it's the relationship, money, whatever. So it's all a reflection.
And then probably part of that as well is not bypassing any of the hard feelings that you might have, but also being courageous enough to be like, I hate my life.
Yeah.
I hate myself.
Yep.
I'm scared. I'm scared every day.
Right.
And be like, oh, okay, tell me more.
Yeah.
Instead of pushing that aside, like, no, I'm going to put a smile on my face and I'm going to, you know, imagine. It's like, well, also allow yourself to really go all the way into that, you know, but courageously, diligently get the F into it.
Yes.
And I think if you can approach all of the hard parts and all of the great parts and all the things just with that attitude of like, cool, I'm going to give it all of myself. I think it's energy begetting, it's energy creating. And
yeah,
you know, I don't know. I think I appreciate you.
I agree. There's certain energies that drain you, and there's certain energy that give you life. And when you focus on the core of like who you are and being that version of you and what you can learn from it, it's a very different energy than being a leaf at the wind of the effect of the universe and all the things you want to manifest. And it's just a very much more empowering place to be. But the thing I recommend is also connecting that to God or an energy greater than ourselves. Otherwise, it becomes an ego gratification tool. And I think that's when it's like manifesting becomes this ego thing, you know? And most of the most successful people, I don't think many of them, some of them will say they manifested it, but they became it ultimately. And then the manifestation was like an afterthought that they can look back and say, I guess I manifested it. You know what I mean?
Do you think that loneliness is the pervasiveness of loneliness is in part a byproduct of drifting away from a relationship to a higher power or God in culture?
I think many times it can be. I believe that the loneliness that we feel, like there's a difference between loneliness and aloneness. And the loneliness is something that we feel in separation between us and other people. And even if we're around other people, we can still feel lonely. I mean, there's many people that are in relationships or have tons of friends around, they still feel lonely. And I think that when we begin opening ourselves up or focusing on our connection to God, the loneliness could be a very powerful launch pad for turning the attention inwards and focusing on God or the divine, and allowing us to then feel something that's even greater than some of the other connections that we feel in our life in different ways. So I think that loneliness may actually serve a purpose, and that purpose may be for us to focus on the connection that we have to God or the divine or something greater than ourselves. So I think in many ways it can be not just an antidote, because you can also give space for the part of you that feels lonely and everything else that we've been talking about. But ultimately, I think spiritually we're never really alone anyways. It's just it's a belief in separation, and it's a a belief that we are separate that creates that, or that we are alone that also creates that. But loneliness also, I think, is there may be a younger part of ourselves, an inner child part of ourselves that feels lonely. And if we were to be present with that part of ourselves, like it's knocking on our door and open up the door and it's lonely and we're like, go somewhere else. I don't want to feel you. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Your vibe is just uncomfortable right now. Please go away. Instead, if we were to embrace that loneliness, we might find that could be a very powerful healing thing to embrace that fragmented part of us. But then even greater than that can be to also connect to God and connecting to what that is for ourselves. And yeah.
Yeah, the God relationship thing, I think, is interesting because I think it's very easy for people to have a relationship to ChatGPT, or the internet. You pull up ChatGPT, you have a question, you open ChatGPT, and
it's always there.
ChatGPT is 6 months old or whatever.
Yeah.
I think there's also the availability for a person if you're experiencing, loneliness, for example, or a sensation that feels unfavorable to you. There's the availability to maybe just talk to it and say what are you telling me right now? What is there for me in this right now? I think for the most part, myself included, the common tendency more is just to resist and avoid that sensation, which ends up adding power to it, increasing the pendulum, increasing the energy. And it becomes this monster that we spend months or years or decades or lifetimes running away from until finally, perhaps at some point, you turn around and you start to talk to it. And I think that a relationship with some version of higher power or God or whatever for someone, I think can be a helpful thing because you can start to have dialogue. I really enjoy getting to talk to you like this.
Me too, man. Yeah, it's been a fun play of different concepts and ideas, and it kind of took on a life of its own as I knew it would.
Yeah, podcasts are good. We've been friends for a while, but I think sitting down and having conversations like this, there's something very cool about the concept of podcasts. I appreciate it very great.
It is 100%. Yeah.
So you have a tremendous YouTube channel. It's got millions of fans and people and all the things, and you're a very impactful person in the world. I really appreciate the work you do.
I'm a very important person, Aaron.
Your avatars. Your avatar is of great importance.
Just kidding.
Where could people go from here if they want to go deep into? You have live events.
They can go to my glorious YouTube channel with millions of followers. Yeah. They could be one of many.
You're a big deal.
I can feel really good about myself. There's YouTube, there's Instagram. My website's starting to come up with more live events. I'm doing more live events. I'll be doing more here in LA as time goes on, just because it's easy. And then I'll travel to do events as well. But that's what I'm passionate about nowadays is YouTube, Instagram, live events. It's pretty much what I'm up to.
Do you feel fulfilled?
With
Aaron?
what?
I don't know, just life. Do you experience deep fulfillment?
I believe so. I believe that I'm very grateful for my life. I feel I get to do what I love. I have a craft that I get to really focus on. It's like live events for me. Doing things that are really meaningful to me brings me a lot of joy and fulfillment. And I believe what I'm doing is just so in alignment that it's like it's interesting. Does the ego part of me feel fulfilled? It's it's not me, but it is me. It's so interesting. The way that I view it, but I just feel like I'm a vessel of the energy that's flowing through. So I just put myself in situations where it comes through, and it comes through in sometimes content creation, but many times live events or someone like you pulling information out of me. And I enjoy it. It feels really good. I love it. I'm very grateful for my life. There's so many things in my life I'm so grateful for. And I feel very fulfilled. I feel just so grateful. And so if that answers your question, I'm grateful for my life, my personal life. I'm grateful for the people in my life. I'm grateful for what I do for a living. I'm grateful that I'll never actually get it perfect. And live events for me, there's not an end result of the perfect live event. There's never going to be a day that I'm I have it all figured out. I mean, when I'm hot seat coaching people and bringing them up to the front, all this stuff, there's always something to improve on. There's always a way to get more present. There's a way to slow down speech. It's this thing that'll never be complete. And I love that. And that gives me a lot of joy and a commitment to something that is just greater than me. And it might shift one day. There might come a day where I'm I now want to write or something. But I feel like the medium of what I do in my life comes with a lot of just a lot of focus of wanting to do what I'm doing, and I'm grateful, even though it was a little bit later in life, I guess. Like later in life, meaning like when I was 20s, I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't fulfilled at all, but eventually it's just everything's led to where I'm at now, and I'm very grateful.
I think having like a craft to whittle away at is very helpful for a person to pass time in this incarnation.
Yeah. I agree. And it's almost like if the fact that it can never get it perfect is actually empowering, you know? It's like, oh.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on, bro. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. That is it. That is all. I'll see you next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed that episode, you might also enjoy this episode over here, as well as this one over here. Thank you for subscribing. Appreciate you. I'll see you in the next video.